I wanted to tackle a controversial issue about marijuana. Should it be legalized or should it not? And is it conducive to recovery? I wrote an article about this a while ago and I recently just shared it on our Facebook page again. So I know people are going to have major strong opinions on this one. Well, what's mine? I'm still formalizing it, to be honest with you. I think it's controversial. I think on one hand, it is a mind-altering substance. It is still considered illegal in most states, and those states it is legalized in. It's typically used for medical purposes, not recreational. And there may be certain circumstances that it's okay for recreational use, etc., etc. So, what is my opinion? I think right now, given that there is still controversy and it is illegal, that I don't personally advise smoking if it's illegal, simply because I think it's better to follow the law. On the other hand, I understand that there's this whole controversy about whether or not smoking marijuana can help aid in getting off of heroin. Some people have posted comments on the article that I recently wrote and said that they believe that it can help, and some have even cited examples that it does. And then I've heard other people point out how cannabis may not be conducive to recovery and could even make withdrawal symptoms worse. So this is certainly, I can get heated, Victoria, I agree. So, but I don't stay away from controversy. I think sometimes it's interesting to discuss it, but hopefully people can discuss this topic in a respectful manner without attacking one another. I am trusting in the members of this community to have an open discussion about it. And honestly, I don't smoke. I just want to make that clear. I don't personally smoke, but I know plenty of people who do. And I do put marijuana in a completely different category than hard drugs like heroin and opiates and morphine, which is an opiate, of course, too. And, benzodiazepines like Xanax and Klonopin, cocaine, those types of things. Those are all harder drugs and whatnot. I do not put marijuana in the same category, but I don't put it in the same category as coffee. I think coffee and sugar and caffeine type products are a lot more benign, even though one could consider overindulging in caffeine is bad for you also. But marijuana is still a mind-altering substance. It does make people a bit slower, a bit lazy. People get real philosophical, but they usually don't make sense. I know that my own father had told me a story that when he was younger, he had tried smoking a few times here and there, and he used to feel extremely philosophical, and he would write down these brilliant ideas that he had when he was smoking. And apparently he found one of his brilliant ideas in his pocket sometime within the next 24 to 48 hours when he was not smoking, and he looked at it and thought, what the heck was I thinking? So I don't think that marijuana necessarily puts you in the best state. It also causes unnecessary anxiety in some people. I know not everybody, but at the same time, on the other hand, it can and does tend to relax people. It does appear to be a temporary escape from pain, but that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, heroin does the same thing. That's a temporary escape from pain too. But realistically, we all know that heroin rots you from the inside out and is literally killing you from the very beginning and lies and manipulates you into using and continually using, and it tries to take everything you hold dear, including your life. Marijuana doesn't do the same thing. It's a natural substance. It's not a pharmaceutical, but that doesn't mean it's good. This whole idea of all natural, by the way, I love that. It's one of the best marketing gimmicks on the planet. Snapple may have been the start of that. I don't know if it was, but that's the first time I heard it. I know I was young and I heard Snapple talk about all natural ingredients. I thought, wow, that sounds great. I could go for an all natural drink. It sounds healthy. Gasoline is all natural, but if I consume it, I'm going to die. So just because something is all natural, it doesn't mean it's healthy for your body. So just remember that when you see commercials about all natural. And since marijuana is all natural, that too doesn't mean that it's healthy for you. So I mean, I think that if we want to discuss whether or not marijuana is healthy for you, I don't think so. I think there's enough evidence to point out that there are possibly long-term side effects in addition to short-term. But at the same time, should it be legalized? Well, I don't know. I mean, I have mixed views on that. Sometimes I think, yeah, you know, maybe it would be better if it was, as long as they put certain rules on it and regulations, like drinking and driving. You shouldn't smoke and drive, that's for sure. But it slows your reactions down, and ultimately you could crash and cause an accident for both you and somebody else. So I don't recommend that. But same thing with drinking and driving. You don't want to do that. So maybe with certain rules and regulations, people can consider the idea that recreational use of marijuana can be legalized. But like I said, I mean, I put it in a category somewhere between drinking coffee and doing heroin. Heroin is at the extreme bad end, and coffee is, I don't want to put that at the extreme good end, but I would say that's a lot more benign than hard drugs. But so where does marijuana fall? Our official organizational view is ultimately follow the law. I mean, if it's illegal in your state, I'm not going to encourage you to go smoke it, buy it, sell it, any of that. We don't advise breaking the law at all. On a personal note, like I said, I mean, if people are doing it anyway and they decide to go against what their current law is, please be safe with it. Please don't overindulge. People can become addicted to marijuana as well. People say all the time, well, geez, well, marijuana doesn't have addictive properties like heroin. That's not how addiction works. There is no such thing as addictive properties on a drug or a substance. There are physical dependency properties on drugs or substances, but not addictive properties. Addiction is a disease of the brain. That's something that happens within the individual person, not properties of a drug or a substance. So marijuana, you can be addicted to that because it has to do with the individual and the brain chemistry, not the actual substance. I mean, gambling, so, yeah, of course. So gambling has, you can't say that has physical dependency properties or it has addictive properties. Gambling is just something, it's an activity. It's something that somebody does. So, how can you argue that a particular drug or a substance has physical dependency properties or addiction properties? You can't argue it has physical dependency properties because there is obvious withdrawal symptoms that are accompanied by certain drugs or certain substances. Gambling is just gambling. So how can somebody become addicted to it if it doesn't have addictive properties? It's because addiction happens within the individual, not the drug or substance. So that's just something to think about. Going back to the topic, marijuana, it is controversial. I would love to hear your comments below, what your opinion is, whether or not it's conducive to recovery, and whether or not somebody who is smoking marijuana is truly in a state of recovery. Ooh, that's a big one. That's going to be controversial. Yeah, I mean, I know, for example, at methadone clinics that you can't get rewarded with take-homes if you're smoking marijuana. So even though you're considered clean off of heroin, you're not clean off of marijuana or not considered quote-unquote clean enough in order to be properly rewarded. Now, is that the true definition of sobriety? No, not necessarily. That's their rule. But like I said, whether or not it's conducive to recovery, well, I suppose we could continue to debate that, especially if you want to talk about coffee or sugary foods, other things that are bad for you that you might obsess over or overindulge in. Does that mean you're not in recovery? No. So where does marijuana fall? I'm still on the fence. Like I said, our official organizational view is follow the law of the land, so to speak. So if your state, if marijuana is legal in your state for recreational use, well, you're going to do what you're going to do. If it's illegal, well, you're still going to do what you're going to do, but I kind of recommend steering away from that because you have a less likely chance of getting into trouble if you follow the law, honestly. So I think people in recovery should do their best to follow the law. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are times that I may, hopefully there's no police listening to this, but I may sometimes do a slow stop at a stop sign and then continue going. I guess they call that a rolling stop. Yikes. Do I hear police? No? Okay, good. Yeah, so like I said, we all violate little laws here and there, and I guess one could say they might be big laws if somebody's coming, you know, but ultimately it's better to obey the law of the land. I always hate when people do that. It's like I know they do that purposely to try to be heard. People love attention. But anyway, I'd love to hear your comments on this topic. It's controversial. I understand that. I'm trying to present both sides of the argument. Everybody has an opinion. I try to remain pretty open-minded about things. I think there are some things you have to be cut and dry on. Heroin is just a complete no. Marijuana, I tend to steer away from it personally. I personally advise people to try to steer away from it too. But I don't think it's anything like heroin or other hard drugs, but I don't advocate it either. So let's hear your opinions. Leave a comment below. Would love to hear it. And visit our website, www.killtheheroinepidemicnationwide.org, heroinawareness.org, kthen.org. I think we have 20 domain names now. I'll have to list them at some point. I think one of my favorite ones is heroinbook.com. Will take you right to our Facebook page. So I kind of thought of that the other day. I thought, you know, trying to type our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/killtheheroinepidemic, takes a lot of time. So I registered the domain name heroinbook.com and pointed it right to the Facebook page. So there's a really easy way to access it in the future. Just type heroinbook.com, takes you right to our page. So anyway, love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.